Well, joining me now to help break down these and other hot economic topics is CCTV Global Economics Analyst Saruhan Hatipoglu. He's also the CEO of BERI Consulting. Welcome back to the show.
Great to be here, Michelle.
So Saruhan, let's start with a big issue. We're starting with the upcoming referendum on Britain leaving the EU, the Brexit. So how much are concerns dragging the UK and perhaps other economies down?
Well, in the beginning, when the news started floating, Rochelle, as you know, the pound declined 5%, actually one of its lowest level against the US dollar. The stock market, bond market were affected. But now, the most recent opinion polls are coming out and telling us that about 20% support, maybe even lower, for Brexit. So the bond market, the stock market is doing much better. They actually came back to the level that they were when the idea was floated first, the Brexit idea. The pound is still having a little bit of a problem, but the way it's looking, that maybe this is going to be, yes, let's stay in the EU, and all the problems that we are anticipating will not take place. I'll be there in 2 weeks. I'll hold the pulse and let you know what's going on 10 days before the Brexit. I really want to see what the policymakers are going to be saying about this.
Because it has been yo-yoing, but it looks like there's perhaps a little more certainty going into it. Now let's shift gear to its neighbour, France. We saw these labour reforms that were proposed, obviously not very well received. So how do you see all this playing out for the French economy?
Every time something like this happens in France, that is, let's do a structural reform, there is going to be a reaction like this. And I think what we're seeing is, it didn't come as a surprise to anybody, but I think it's the government's responsibility to keep things under control. Now, what they're proposing on surface is very good. They're trying to increase the work hours from 35 to 48 hours max. They're trying to kind of deal with the labor duality and labor rigidity problems, which they're supposed to do. But as they're doing that, they're not giving overtime raise to people. They're asking for 25% increase, and the government is saying no, 10% for the first 8 hours. And they're not addressing the problem of temporary contractors, and that is what really is causing the labor market rigidity. And the opposition has a point in this, so they have to sit down and find the common ground. Can they do that? I think they can, but this process is going to take a long, long time.
All right, now we're going to shift now over to the US. We saw there that US first quarter GDP was revised upwards. A soft start to the year, but not as bad as expected. But how does all this play into what the Federal Reserve might do at their next meeting?
Well, this is the Rodney Dangerfield of economic recoveries. It doesn't get any respect whatsoever. It's been going on for 6 years. It is actually okay. There is no recession in the coming. If you look at the numbers, retail sales are strong. Corporate profits. Everybody was saying, oh, it's the multinationals were in so much trouble because of the strong dollar, but corporate profits rose. Retail sales are up. Even foreign trade made a contribution to GDP. So I think what we heard from Ms. Yellen today was pretty much saying, well, guys, it's time again. I think it's going to happen in June. But I think, well, I want it to happen in June, but I think they're going to do this in July because they have the Brexit on their table. They don't want to shock the market and then maybe a negative vote on Brexit. That would really, really cause problems for the market. But the rate increase is coming.
Now, obviously, we have several of the world leaders now meeting for the G7, and we obviously heard Japan's Shinzo Abe saying that the G7 shares a strong sense of crisis, and actually repeatedly drew comparisons to what led up to the 2008 financial crisis. Is he hitting the panic button too soon?
He is, and I think everybody was shocked to hear that because we're nowhere close to what happened in 2008. And when I read it, I thought maybe he meant, well, there's another global crisis that could have implications like the Lehman crisis, but even then, we're not seeing that. Yes, there are risks, but the government itself in Japan is trying to delay the increase in sales tax. They don't want to go up to 10%. And the Prime Minister knows he's made a commitment, and he wanted to use global crisis as a support to maybe delay it again and help the economy. But that didn't work. Germany said no, UK said no, we're not with that. There's a lot of divergence going on, and it didn't play well for Mr. Abe.
And just lastly, as we look at some of the issues that are keeping investors up at night, you have commodities slumping, you have the refugee crisis, climate change, so many things to battle with that are heading into this global economy. If you had to name your top 2 biggest crises that you think could disrupt the global economy, what would they be?
Central bankers everywhere. I'm worried about the timing of the interest rate increases, whether it's going to be enough, or after the interest rate increase in the United States, will there be a period of economic turbulence which would prompt the Federal Reserve to reduce the rates? That is my main concern. The other concern I have in the global economic area is what is not happening by the ECB. They're doing a great quantitative easing, but the confidence level in the economy is so low, Rochelle, that the investors are not using that money to productive channels, building factories. They're going and engaging in speculative activity. Consumers aren't spending that money, that easy money that they're borrowing, because they're worried about the economy. So it is not working in Europe, and that's my second concern, because if the US, if something happens and the interest rates are increased more than they're supposed to, and the ECB QE doesn't work at the same time, we may be looking at some serious problems.
There's possibly some doom and gloom ahead. We'll have to leave it there, unfortunately. Saruhan Hatipoglu, CCTV Global Economic Analyst. Thank you so much.
Sure.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, CCTV-America.com.